if either one of us, I don't know how, we need to set up a system. We need to set up a system. Somebody can tell us when we have a technical issue, which one of us is live.
You know what? That actually is true. It's funny that you should say that, because last week when there was a moment, or not last week, but the last podcast recording, there was a moment where you went, I went dead in the middle, and it doesn't on Restream doesn't show you who it is.
Correct.
And I'm sitting there going, oh no. And so here's what's crazy. So when you went at the end, I just paused for like a long time thinking, here I go again. But it was you that time. So I'm like, yeah, we need some spotters like in the
there
PGA,
you go. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need. We really do. And it's funny because so last time when it was me, I'm just talking away and like, my brother's having issues, whatever. I'm like, I don't know who's live, but we're just going to keep on going with it. And then I went back and watched, and nope, not me. I was gone.
Oh man. Yesterday I invited some guys on. I invited some guys yesterday, man, oh man, to come join us on our podcast. They said when these, they said when these podcasts start live, or not podcasts, but when Facebook Live starts and people are like, we're just hanging around waiting for people to get on here. And they were like this whole line of people like, I'm gone. Bye. See ya. And I said, right. We've actually heard that our pre-show is actually the part that people say you don't want to miss that part.
It's the gold, man. It's the gold.
So I told him, I said, you just jump on there. I said, we'll bring you on live. If you get on there, we'll bring you on live.
Right.
Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny to send somebody a Restream link? And when they, when they come on and say, hey, you want to come on live with us? Impromptu.
Awesome.
That would be awesome.
It'd be, it would be a little bit unnerving. You don't really know what's going to happen, but it's all good, man. It's all good.
But they wouldn't know what's going to happen way more than us.
That is true. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see. I'm just going to.
Did you get it? Did you get it to all those places?
I'm working on it right now.
Oh man, all those places. I'll tell you something that's crazy as we're populating our live audience here. I'll tell you what's crazy is Chris and I were talking. Sometimes our pre-show is actually like our prep shows, like a college or a sports show.
Right.
And we were talking about how strangely and ridiculously different the team was that came out in the second half. Connecticut. Now they spread, they spread the score out at the end of the game. It looked like a blowout, but San Diego made a little run on them. San Diego State. Why does that happen? I don't get that.
It's a weird deal. I think. Well, I do think a couple things. I think, man, you're close to being a national champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a little bit of, you get a little bit tight.
Yep. Don't ruin it. Don't mess it up.
Yeah. Yep. You start, especially when you've got a lead like that. Momentum's a crazy thing.
Mm-hmm.
A team starts getting on a little bit of a roll, and the crowd gets into it. We've both played in atmospheres mm-hmm. where, man, it changes stuff. I don't care who you are or what you say. We got beat my 8th grade year. We played this school, and they probably had 600 people in this gym, and we were in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And we were like, I think we had lost one game all year. And it was to a school that was much larger than us.
Uh-huh.
And so we're in this gym, and it was like their last game of the year and whatever. And their gym, they were right on top of us. and we lost on a last second layup because we were taking the ball out. All we had to do was get the ball in bounds. I had position on a guy, and the guy taking the ball out. Bro, when I tell you my man freaked, he was like,
I don't
"No."
want this moment.
And he just threw it up in the air, and a kid grabbed it and shot a layup, and we lost the game because he just totally panicked. So I think there's something, especially on that stage. That's
That's
one
very
thing.
true.
But we were talking, dude, San Diego State was relentless.
Yeah.
Like their defense is relentless. And I think if you look at their games, how many teams they came back on, they don't really have the offensive firepower, so they
It's true.
can't outscore you.
Yeah.
But I think they just wear you down.
You know what's funny is I was thinking both of those coaches are pretty calm especially for as wildly aggressive as their style is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw Reese commenting on there. He might be able to comment. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's Jackson, who I really like. He's like a 6'6" point forward.
Mm-hmm.
And really good and whatever.
Yeah.
But one of the adjustments they made was San Diego State just backed off of him and dared him to shoot, and that clogged up the lane.
Yep.
So now you don't have the driving lanes. So
yeah. I'll tell you what I would have done. This is kind of crazy. When it got tight, here's what I had done if I was UConn. I would have put both big men in and played a little high-low, and just play rotate the post. And I don't know. I don't know that there's much that they could have done because they were pressuring the ball. They were pressuring out front big time, trying to cut off passing lanes and stuff. And I'm not saying I'd have done it for long. I'd have just done it to kind of throw them off of the adjustment the defensive adjustment that they made, like Reese was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I told Reese, and this was crazy, man. This was frustrating as like you're watching it. So on offense, San Diego State was running an action. They were running high pick and roll curl from the left elbow.
Yep, coming back around. Yep.
And they would get in the lane at will. Like that little guy for them would get in the lane at will, and then he had options. Yep. You know, he was kicking to the corner, he was dumping down low, or he was just scoring. Oh. And bro, they get it to 5. First of all, they get it to 5. And my man Hawkins hits a dagger of a 3 at the top of the key.
And was that not?
And it just rattled in. Just
yeah. I'm like, why did he shoot that? I mean, but it was like one of those shots that hits the back of the rim and just goes and goes in
and went in. Yeah. But San Diego State went away from that action.
Yep.
They started like going around the perimeter and chucking threes, and that you know, I think pressure. Our saying in to our team when I coached was pressure bust pipes.
Yep.
And I think pressure got to him. Like Connor, I don't want to put Connor on blast, but Connor said, "Playing not to lose, just like my putt for eagle yesterday." Oh. Spoiler alert: 3-putt.
No, from an eagle putt to a par.
Oh man, that's where you got to go for the good lag. Go for the good lag. Don't 3-putt.
Who was it that was? I cannot remember the golf tournament it was, and I can't even remember the player now. I just remember watching probably the most ultimate implosion I've ever watched. It was
Louis Oosthuizen.
It was him, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was painful to watch.
Yeah, I think it was Louis Oosthuizen. Was it Masters?
Reese is saying Mito Pereira. Who was? Are you searching it?
I am.
He's Googling it. Greatest meltdown of a golf major ever.
I know Oosthuizen had a big one.
Gary Gotthier's saying the Open. I remember that.
The Open. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Ouch.
Well, and what's the dude? Norman, Greg Norman. Greg Norman was the king of choke jobs.
Greg Norman was he was chokeolific, and that's like a prolific choker. But the funny thing about it is is he's kind of even choking with the Live Golf League.
Oh man, we're gonna start that up, huh?
He
We're
just
start that up
continues to
today.
choke. Well, that's a good. It's a little good. It's a good little sub narrative at the Masters right now.
Right? Exactly. It's
But I
gonna
heard
be
the
intense.
the Masters chairman, or I think it's what they call him, the Master chairman or whatever, called all the former champions and said, "What's the temperature of things and what's going on?" They're like, "Don't run it.
Don't ruin it.
Don't run it."
Exactly.
Jean Van de Velde.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. What was that one? There you go.
It was
He's coming in strong.
For real. That was like the macaron eating contest.
Right.
Jean Bon. That was the French baking show.
Oh, bro, you got to remember that one. That was at the British Open, right?
Yeah.
That was at the British Open. And
Yeah.
that one was a classic one.
Yeah.
That was an amazing one.
Yeah.
And I loved his movies.
That
was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Hey, don't say damn on our podcast.
You put a van in front of him, it's okay.
That's true.
Oh my word. I'm out of pocket. You ready to get going?
I thought we were going.
Look at the time already. Man, we didn't even do the intro yet. All right, let's get rolling. Hit the share button, peeps. Hit the share button.
Come on, y'all.
This. What in the world? All right, here we go. We're gonna get going. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham, alongside my big brother, Ken Dillingham Jr. the third. Good morning, Ken. How we doing today?
Oh, you know what? How could you not? This is like Christmas and Thanksgiving all rolled up in one.
I was going to say, we didn't even talk about this. I was going to say, I almost threw you a curveball on the introduction.
Yeah. Did you?
I almost started with, hello, friends.
It would be a good week to use Jim Nantz.
An homage, bro. I got to be honest, man. Like, you know how like certain people, certain sounds just like bring back memories and whatever.
Right.
Dude, Jim Nantz has just been the voice.
Yep.
March Madness is my thing. Yep. And so last night, his last Final Four, last championship game. And of course, bro, how can you not love One Shining Moment?
Man.
Like, it just doesn't get any better than that. And then to go from that, which we could talk about, why in the world do they have the championship game starting at,
I know, 9:20?
God have mercy,
That's
man.
what my wife
like,
said.
It's the latest start time. So you got that. You get done with that into Tuesday. And then guess what happens on Thursday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, the par 3 contest is
par 3. Oh, yeah, that's right. Par 3, skipping it across the deal and all that. So the Masters is coming up, so it's a great week. So I almost threw you a curveball with a little homage to Jim Nantz.
Bro, if you would have thrown a little Jim Nantz curveball, I would have probably taken it over the right field fence. Because
for real, right?
I mean, you got to love because you've got Jim Nantz is, let's just admit it. Jim Nantz is the super glue between the NCAA championship on Monday and the start of the Masters on Thursday. And
absolutely.
And look, if you're a sports person, because here's the thing, right now, my two favorite sports are college basketball and golf.
Yeah.
So, this week
doesn't get any better.
Hey, I would trade Thanksgiving and Christmas for this
all
week.
Day, every day.
Don't let my wife hear that, because then she'll be like, oh, okay, well, no, because then you got to get me, then that would mean that you'd have to get me Sports Week's gifts.
Right.
I still want the gifts.
Right. For real. You know what I was thinking about this? What we should have done today is we should have had Ken Dillingham Sr. the third on today.
Oh, wouldn't that have been awesome?
To do a little Jim Nantz impersonation. Yeah. I honestly believe, I was thinking about this last night. I honestly believe if Dad wanted to, I honestly believe he could have been Jim Nantz.
True. Very true. Yeah, because he has the personality, he has the knowledge, the full sports knowledge. and the voice.
Yeah. He definitely could have done it. Announced basketball games for a long time back in Centralia. And so yeah, we should have had him on here today. Do a little Jim Nance. That would have been amazing. So
too bad we couldn't have Taxman and Dillingham.
Yeah, Reese just posted. My son Reese posted Father Son Dilly podcast. We have a text group. That's what we should do sometime. That would be out of pocket.
Let's do it. Let's do one of these weeks. We'll just throw something in there and say, look, for all of you carnal people, here's one. We'll throw you a bone.
Right, for real, man, for real. Well, welcome back from spring break, man.
That's good to be
took
back.
a little break off last week, so appreciate everybody hanging with us and jumping on today. It's always interesting. You just never know when you take a week off like that what's going to happen. So appreciate everybody jumping on and being a part of the conversation today. So do us a favor, if you don't mind, just go ahead and hit that share button right now and let people know, or retweet it, or click the link on YouTube and share that link and just tell people that we are live today and rocking and rolling. A special edition, man, bro. You got March Madness, the Masters, and Easter. It's just a little bit of overload, right now.
That is so true, man. That is so true.
So today, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Our pre-show.
Our pre-show kind of flowed into the. You know what's funny is I did want to talk about the fact that it's the average MLB game was reduced by almost 30 minutes because of the pitch clock, which is
what?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes, I just read that. It was like 28 minutes or something like that, the average shortening of the game. And I'm like, now, if they could shorten out another maybe 28 minutes, I might watch an entire Major League Baseball game.
Oh man, for real. It is gruelingly long, man. It's just
And when you play 180 games, like no single game really matters. So it's like, whatever.
Yeah, we'll catch another one later.
He says, Gauthier says, what's MLB?
For real. Well, if people missed the pre-show, they need to go back to Facebook and watch it, because we did some pretty solid analysis and breakdown of the championship game last night. Busted out a little defensive scheme and offensive scheme. So you just don't get that everywhere, bro. You don't get that everywhere.
No.
Hey, Jared Young just mentioned in the comments about watching hockey. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't watch NHL playoffs, you're missing the best playoffs of any.
It is true.
Pro sport. Hockey playoffs are wild, bro. They're amazing. And I'm not a huge hockey guy.
No, I went to a Columbus Blue Jackets game, and it was literally the fastest moving
crazy
sporting event I'm like, all of a sudden I looked up and it was like 2 minutes to go in the third period. And I'm like, well, where'd the game go? I just went and got my third Polish sausage here.
We used to go back in the day. We used to go to for one of our club trips. I think it was German club. We used to go to Blackhawks and Blues games.
Oh yeah.
And there were more fights in the stands than there were on the ice, man. It was wild. It was crazy. So anyway, all right. You ready to get rolling?
Yeah, I guess. Reese said Polish sausage.
Anything else you want to talk about right now?
I don't know.
Let's just go. Let's just go. All right. So today, what we want to talk about. So I was leading into my segue, and I got distracted by my own segue distracted me. So
yeah, your segue led me into another sport commentary comment.
That's exactly right. And before we get started, just real quick.
No.
Yeah. We need somebody to help us.
Before I get started again.
No,
that's awesome.
We if people missed the pre-show, we need somebody to help us, because we both have just incompetent internet providers driving us crazy. And so we need, if one of us drops off, can somebody text us and let us know who's still online, because we don't know. both
need to
think
send
we're
that in
on
as
it.
a deal to Restream to say, hey, when you got people that are live, you need to have
Yeah.
an ability to know,
Ooh,
like gray out their screen of the one who's frozen or something. They've got it. They have to know. The
right.
Restream signal has to know you're not sending a signal now or something. I don't know, whatever.
Correct. And all you get is it says somebody's signal is not
Yes.
strong or something like that. Well, that's not very helpful.
We need to
Thanks a
know
lot.
which somebody. Come on, use pronouns here.
So we need a spotter. So if anybody's watching today, you're the spotter. Let us
Yeah.
know if one of us drops off because it's very likely today. There's a very strong chance it's going to
I
happen.
was watching a golf tournament. I was watching a golf tournament about a month ago, and they had a spotter, and it was the cutest old lady.
Yeah.
And they were talking about her, and they were talking about she's down there, she's spotting, and he said she's kind of in a dangerous spot there. There's a lot of balls going left today, and it's because there's like a creek or something to the right. While they're talking about it, a ball one hops
No.
right off
She
of
found it. She found it. It's right here.
And it's so awesome. And it was like, and somebody was like,
hilarious.
well, thankful for the spotter. That ball would have definitely been OB.
Was it Justin Spieth? Because didn't he do that? He drilled somebody and it bounced back into play, and he got he hit somebody and bounced back into play, and I think he birdied that hole or something. And if he wouldn't have done that, it was going out of bounds. If he wouldn't have done that, he would have missed the cut.
Yes. How
And
about
then he made a run
at the Sunday at the Valero? Who was the guy that was making the move? The younger guy. He was playing lights out, and he pulled one. What was his name? Steven?
I didn't see it.
He hit one, and he pulled it so hard left on 18 that it hit the grandstands. And I don't know if it hit a person or the railing, bounced off and back down into this nice little area where he had a wide open shot. And it was like his second shot.
Inches.
Yeah.
Game of inches. That's hilarious.
Yep.
That's right. That right there is a microcosm of our world.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to start, and one just little segue led into a conversation about a little old lady getting hit by a golf ball. That's all you need to know right there.
Yeah.
All right. So today, what we want to talk about, Ken.
Let's go.
What we want to talk about today is, obviously, with this been a big week, got a lot of stuff going on, people getting hyped up and amped about Easter weekend. Mm-hmm. Dan Greider always used to say, this is like the Super Bowl for the church. You've got people that will typically not go to church. They'll put on their one suit that they have or whatever, and statistics suggest that people are way more open to an invitation to a church on Easter, being invited by a friend. I think that's the major statistic, right? If they're invited by a friend, people are significantly more open to going to church on Easter. And so what we want to talk about today is, for the attractional model church, everything is built around how many people can you just stack in a building, right? What's the biggest number you can get? Just fill it up, do as many services as you can, and just get as many people in there as you possibly can. And while we appreciate the number of people, and again, we're most things are neutral. We're for people being in church. We know God does great things when people come and when they attend, and there are going to be people that are impacted. And if one person is impacted, then it's worth it for sure. But what we know is a lot of people build so much energy towards an Easter Sunday. Yeah. And there's not a lot of, if you look at the comparison of the ROI, the amount of time and energy and money and resources invested into that one weekend, as opposed to the long-term impact that it has on the church.
Very true.
It's really skewed. You don't really have the impact. So what I want to throw to you, Ken, what we'll talk about today is, you kind of talk about that, the approach of the attractional model church, and how should the approach be different for a church or a group of people that are focused on the that are no, I shouldn't say that are more missionally minded, a missionally focused church as opposed to an attractional model church?
That's a good question. And I'm wondering if there are people out there saying ROI. That's a weird way to spell Roy, but we're, we are return on investment. We are, I think as we look at this and talk about it and just sort of just kind of move around the edges of it to look at sort of a 360-degree view. I think you've mentioned some pretty critical angles that predominantly the the attractional, the institutional, the standard Western kind of style church, the way that they do mission is often, and it's obviously this engagement and people have to, invite people and so on and so forth. And all.
Sure.
But it's predominantly based on a retention of guests model. It really is. Most church growth, if you read about church growth stuff, you'll almost always read as a primary factor is how do you get more visitors?
Correct.
And how do you retain guests?
Correct.
That's
absolutely
that's the church growth model. I mean, let's figure out how to do that and how to do that better. And the better we do it, the faster and bigger we're going to grow. And so obviously for so many churches, that have seen that model and that have, that are living out that, kind of that paradigm. Obviously Easter is a place where people are, even if they haven't experienced a lot of growth or if they haven't seen a lot of guests, it's a time of year, especially churches where, like Jay Jones was talking about, old church growth model have more people coming than leaving, which is true. And I think that, in some ways, some of these churches that are engaged in this process, there's friends and family, right? Parents are going to ask their kids, maybe who don't go to church anymore,
right.
Or whatever, that they're going to ask them to come, and maybe friends and family come in and, so on and so forth, which, by the way, when we first started the church, when we were first planting the church, our church, we didn't have a church. We were renting a building and it wasn't a church.
Right.
And these weeks I hated because everybody was talking about Easter, man, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day,
right.
Big
Christmas.
High, yeah. These are the big Sundays. It was the Sundays when our church, everybody left and went to be with their family somewhere else.
Bro, I said the same thing when we started the church in Champaign. 100%. That's exactly what happened. Everybody left us and went to other churches, right?
Who had better music and better facilities and, whatever, or churches they were raised in or whatever. But anyway, So anyway, I guess the point that like you were saying, what is kind of that predominant style? And I think that predominant style for most attractional churches, as we said, is get more people coming and figure out how to get them to stay or come back or whatever, turn visitors into attenders, turn attenders into members. And there's a whole lot of different ways that that's done. Well, obviously then, if you're high water mark. So there's two things I want to piece off of this sort of this, a more missional model. I don't really want to go the direction, and I think we could do this, but I don't want to go the direction of, and I think we'll probably hit this at some point, that having a big attendance number and putting that up on the wall or putting out a deal saying, hey, it was our largest attendance of in the last 2 years or whatever.
Yeah,
kind of this feeling of a false sense of like we're really doing great stuff. Let's talk about that. But I even think on a missional perspective, the thing that you led into was how do missionally minded churches do it differently? Yeah. And so I think to say this is the way most attractional churches use Easter and use Easter as sort of a catapult for growth. I think that's at least for me, the starting point of the conversation.
Yeah. And I think it leads into a bigger conversation, right? I think Easter just becomes kind of a microcosm of a bigger view and perspective of things, and it just kind of highlights, it kind of highlights what you said, kind of the false narrative or the false feeling that we're more impactful or more effective than we be. And again,
that's so good, Chris.
It's I don't want people to think that we're not against attendance. We're not against people coming there. But if your model or your whole focus is on how many people attend on a Sunday, then you can pack the house, get a big number, and then at the end of the year, when you say your average attendance was yada yada yada, and it's skewed because you have a couple of big Sundays. And I'll just be like really transparent. Before we got into the missional culture and discipleship culture, our goal was to do the same thing, fill it up, see how many people we can get and whatever. And we used to do a big Thanksgiving service. We'd give away Thanksgiving meals. We'd pack the house. We'd bus people in. And if I'm being like really transparent, really honest, some of the numbers that we had at the end of the year saying what our church attendance was.
Right.
If you extract out that one Sunday where we were literally, one Sunday we were almost triple, probably were triple our normal regular attendance. We went from 400 to over 1,200 people in one service. That majorly skews your deal. So it gives you this false sense of effectiveness. It gives you this false sense that you're, doing the mission. And that can be, I think, a dangerous thing for a church that feels like, well, we're doing, look at our numbers. We're growing, we're bigger than we were last year, whatever. If you extract out the one Sunday, are you really doing the mission? Are you really growing? And I think that needs to be something challenged, as we're going forward. You're putting all this energy, you're putting all this time into it. And I again, it's this really delicate balance, right? Because we do know people are open to coming to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
So the question is not about should we try to get people to come to church or whatever. The question is, how are we viewing this as far as our view of effectiveness of our mission, of our ministry, and what does that mean for our culture, right? What is our culture doing? Is our culture looking at it saying, man, we're going to, because we had the biggest attendance we've ever had, we're really effective? Or is the culture looking at it saying, how can we maximize this moment and maximize the opportunity? I think is the biggest difference for a missionally minded church.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that the critique that the critique that we need to make is revolves around the missional model.
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, man, if churches don't, like, for example, I knew a guy that told me, we were talking, this has been years ago when I evangelized, and I said something about, attendance, and this is, goodness, this was back when it wasn't a long time ago that like district, state newspapers of all the churches in the denomination, but these state, periodicals or these monthly magazines or whatever you want to call them,
right.
News magazine would have the list of the attendance numbers of the 10 largest churches in the district or whatever.
Right.
Right. Those kinds of things. So obviously, so here's the deal. So obviously there are going to be people, pastors, if that's a prominent part of your monthly periodical and it's saying these are the 10 largest churches in our district, then I think that obviously there's going to be pastors that are going to have a scorecard that's going to say, well, I want to get my name on that list. Yeah. And right. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And that becomes the scorecard.
100%.
And I think that it's, so that we can't affect that. That I think that is that's a sort of a scorecard that's based on a set of values that we, that's not, man, I hate to say it like this, but it's really not even a missional methodology. It's not.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously, the thought is I want to reach the world. And I do believe that there are some old style attractional where the missional methodology, this is the thing, where the missional model is pack them in and connect them and get them coming back and whatever. And I think while the old scorecard sort of still remains as a part of their success success identity.
Yeah.
It's still a desire to reach people.
Sure.
What you just said, and I think to really Gary Gauthier's comment, where he said, if perspective is in a proper place and we understand that church, meaning buildings and services, is an extension of the mission, Easter and special services can be greatly impactful if people are living on mission. And I think that's the point where we're talking about missional model, the missional model. Jay Jones talked about new church growth model is make disciples that make disciples. The old church growth model is have more people coming than are leaving.
Yeah.
And which is a numeric model.
Yeah.
And so I think the question needs to be, right? So Easter, Jay Jones says Easter in a missional model church this is a wonderful opportunity to spend meaningful spiritual time with those who are discipling or hoping to reach. You made this statement. It's not that we have some issue about we shouldn't count numbers, or it doesn't have anything.
Right.
We understand attendance is important because those are people that are being touched, being reached, whatever.
Sure.
I think that one of the key things too is, we've said this before, people that are hungry, especially on Easter, are going to show up where the Jesus people are. Like their mind is on that. They're focusing on that. We don't know all of those people, but at the end of the day, Chris, I think that the real centerpiece of this discussion goes back to which is your missional model and what does Easter mean inside that context.
Yeah. And I think the fatal flaw of an attractional model church is that the feeling is, if we can get them there, then what we present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that presentation is, whether it's, we have this fantastic praise team, or, a dynamic series, dynamic preacher, or all the bells and whistles of the church, and all of those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get them there, that is going to be enough to convince them that, they need to continue on this journey of faith and get connected to this ministry and be a part of this church and whatever that looks like. It could be for Pentecostal churches. It could be, man, if we just get them connected to the power of God and the Spirit of God, then they're gonna feel something they've never felt before, and they're gonna want to come back and be a part of this.
Yes.
And unfortunately, the truth is, we've had many people, a significant number of people that have come and experienced the power of the Holy Ghost and walk out and never come back.
Mm-hmm.
The fatal flaw of it is thinking that whatever the attraction is, right? Whether it's presentation or whatever, or experience, whatever the attraction is, that in and of itself is not the draw.
Right.
That's not the draw. And I'm not saying that we're doing that to detract attention away from Jesus. I'm just saying, if we think that that's going to get people connected to the church, then that's not going to happen. So from a missional perspective, right? From a missional perspective, what we understand is, as we've talked about over and over again, people are more open to a spiritual conversation with somebody that they trust, somebody that they know.
Mm-hmm. People
are open to an invitation to an Easter service. To go with who? To go with people that they know, people that they trust, that they can, they may not fully be on the same page with belief systems or whatever, but they know them. What's the difference? A missionally minded church understands that the key component is relationship, not presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest differences there is a missionally minded church looks at a service like Easter or one of these big Super Bowl type events or whatever, looks at it and we say, the key of all of this is, how can we build relationships? How can we, first of all, how can we maximize the relationships that we've been intentional about building?
Right.
And two, how can we, did I just go A and two? I think I might have gone A and two.
That's
Either A and B
yeah.
or one and two.
Yeah.
Or two, how can we use this service as an opportunity to build relationships with people that are going to come and be a part of our services that may typically not come?
Yeah. And the question then becomes, who's going to do that? Right? Like who?
Yeah.
So I asked, there's 3 questions I sent to you in the private chat.
Yeah.
And maybe we could put that out there if you, I don't know if you can copy and paste those or whatever and put them on.
Got you.
Put them out there as the questions. The 3 questions are, why is Easter a big day for your church? Second question is, how does your church do the mission? And the third question is, what is your missional model? Yeah. I think those are 3 good questions. And for those that are out, those that are listening to this podcast after the recording and you've made it through the first 10 or so minutes of our sports commentary.
From our tomfoolery.
Yes, exactly. If Reese has anything to do with it, he may go from your 3, 2, 1 countdown.
Right.
You may go from your 3, 2, 1 countdown to when we actually started. But anyway, so I think these 3 things are very clarifying questions.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Jay Jones asked a question that could be
right. That's what I was just thinking.
The 4th question, it was, how can you use Easter to actually advance what fulfills your mission? And then the question, historically, I think this is the 4th question. Historically, for your church, did Easter grow your church?
Right.
And I think so. What we're highlighting here is this: is when you ask the questions, why is Easter a big day for your church? How does your church do the mission? What is your missional model? Then the question is, okay, so Easter is big for our church because it's our number 1 guest visitor day.
Yeah.
How does your church do the mission? Well, we do a lot of promo stuff. We got an Easter egg hunt thing. We got, we're doing a big kids program. We're doing, so that we can get grandma and grandpa's
helicopter Easter egg drop.
Exactly.
Well, we've done right, those things.
I know we talked about the WKRP, when you guys were doing remember when you guys were doing the turkey deal, and I said, you need to do a turkey drop, I
swear to God, turkeys can fly.
How was I supposed to know turkeys
can fly? One of the great lines of all time. That's so funny, dude.
Yeah. And so my wife, my wife said that there was a church that, they don't believe in Easter eggs and stuff like that. So they're going to have a rock hunt and a candy rain. And I said, you should have just switched it. Tell them, say, switch it up and do a candy hunt and a rock rain.
Dodging rocks.
Make sure you video that for us. But yeah, Les Nessman, exactly. But the thing is, man, that's the thing that when you start thinking through some of that stuff and you start saying, okay, so that's how you do the mission. Easter is big. And this is the way we capitalize on it. This is the way we get people through the door. But then we got to figure out a way, man, we got to set the hook. And so we got to figure out a way to get them back next week. And you know what I'm saying?
Bro, that's a great point. If you go and read, like you talked about, it's a lot of it's focused on getting guests to return. And if you look at all of these things, like I'm sure you get the same thing. I get a bazillion email from all these different, church ministries and different things. And the number one thing that they will tell, so one of the things they'll tell you is start your sermon series on Easter Sunday.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Exactly right.
Because it used to be like you do a big lead up and a lead up to what happened before Easter or whatever, and then you have a big, kind of a big celebration on Easter Sunday. And they're like, no. You got to start the series on Easter Sunday, right, so people will want to come back the next several weeks, right? That's
right. Do a 4-week series, start the series on Easter Sunday, make it provocative, right? I'm going to do a 4-week series, and it's what Jesus would do if he were here today. and I'm gonna, today we're gonna talk about the Easter resurrection story, but next week we're gonna talk about Jesus would own a Harley, and I'm gonna have a Harley on the stage, whatever. And, I mean, because, he had a beard and a robe and whatever. So and sandals. So, hippies on Harleys. I mean, no, for real. And I know so
we just lost all of our Harley rider listeners. Thank you very much.
Like beards, robes, and sandals.
Harley riders have you been hanging out with?
Oh goodness. Yeah. They're actually probably driving a Volkswagen van, but oh man, this is just terrible. No, but what Jay Jones is really, Jay, you're hitting at the point when you said, how's that working out for you? I think that's the thing where you say, man, year after year after year, you put all this weight on, man, we're going to have this big attendance. It's going to be amazing. And we're going to celebrate it and whatever. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do the 4 weeks out from Easter and tell me what your attendance number looks like 4 weeks after Easter compared to 4 weeks before Easter.
Yeah.
What does your attendance number look like 4 weeks before Easter, 4 weeks after Easter? And let's take a look at the actual missional impact of Easter.
There you go.
Theologically, it is an eternal impact. For the Christian church, it is an eternal impact. For the redemption of humanity, Easter is eternally impactful.
Yeah.
What's amazing to me, okay, this is just, I'm just going to throw this out, Chris. As a missionally discipleship oriented church, we actually can celebrate the real celebration of Easter, not its opportunity for church growth.
Right.
I wonder if Jesus looks and says, guys, do you realize that the really big deal for Easter is the fact that I died for your sins, shed my blood, went to the grave and got up?
Right.
But for you, it's a big Sunday where we can get so many people here, and man, let's grow. Let's capitalize on Easter. Let's capitalize on Easter. And he's like, what's the difference between capitalizing on Easter and the sons of Eli who went to get the ark and brought it out to the battlefield and said, let's fetch the ark for it will save us.
Ooh, okay. Right.
So in a missionally oriented church, what you can do is you can celebrate the spiritual event of Easter, the theological event of Easter, while at the same time enjoying the people that are going to come in because of Easter and the mindset of it, and they're focused on it and the relationship building and all of those kinds of things. And it's going to be a big number of attendees, and it's going to be a lot of guests, but it's going to be the result, like you said, of a lot of people who are going to continue the conversation. So instead of doing a 4-week series after Easter, let's do some disciple making churches say, let's have 4 weeks of contact and connection, take them out the second week, go, buy them coffee the third, whatever it is, I'm just saying it's a whole different atmosphere.
Man, 100%. And, obviously these are things that we wrestle through and work through and whatever. And,
right.
I've obviously been thinking a lot about this just locally in our context. And so I sent out a message today, and this is what I sent out to our disciple makers. And I'll give kind of the Reader's Digest version, but just kind of understanding. And I'm not saying like, do it like me, but I'm just saying I think this highlights the difference between exactly what you're saying, as Jay Jones quotes it, Easter will save us, right? Like Easter is the thing that's going to, push us over. How can we take advantage of the culture that we've built and use this as a moment to just further that culture that we've 100%. Built, right? Yep. And so, basically what I said was, heading into this week and this weekend, how do we know if this is a win for us? How do we know
That's
what the
it.
wins are, which I think are really critical. I think it's really important. And for us, it's this. Number one, this is a great opportunity to have spiritual conversations with people, right? We've been super intentional and we've put a lot of emphasis just where we're at in this process. We've put a lot of emphasis on we got to build relationships. We got to get in the key spaces of life where we learn, live, work, and play. We've got to build those relationships, right? This is an opportunity to move those relationships from, the three levels of conversations from
Mhm.
good to crucial to
Mhm.
God.
Mhm.
This is an opportunity to really focus in on moving those to the next level and hopefully getting to a God conversation. And if we have spiritual conversations, that's a win for us.
100%, dude.
The second thing is on Sunday, we know that there are going to be a lot of guests, so we can use this as an opportunity to identify people that are disciplable, people that are going to show up. How can we, in the moment, be intentional about building connections with them while they're here, not for the purpose of trying to get them to join our church, but to identify how disciplable they are, and to again, like you said, can we take them out to lunch? Can we get to
Mhm.
know them better? Is there a connection? Are they open and disciplable? So identifying disciplable people, and then the third piece of that is transformation. I believe that the power of his resurrection is going to be uh, just so strong
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tangible in our services, and I want people to experience that transformation. And so again, we want to be used by the Lord in those moments to help people get connected to the power of the resurrection. So, what I told our group was, look, man, this is a great opportunity to invite people that you've been building relationships with. Should we invite anybody and everybody? Absolutely. But our first focus should be invite people that you've been intentional about building relationships. So we're not shying away from the fact that this is what I said. We know that there's going to be a larger attendance this Sunday. But how can we use the culture that we say we have? Are we really focusing on the things we say that are important to us? Or are we just getting sucked into the false feeling of big numbers makes us feel better?
Mm. Man, I'm gonna quote while you're talking. As you're saying that, Jay Jones actually came with a comment. He said, "This Easter, half of our churches will celebrate attendance records, and the other half will feel like quitting."
Whoo,
But Easter
man,
doesn't.
that's
Yeah, Easter doesn't tell the whole story, and I
shooey.
isn't that good? And it's just so true. Like Gary was saying. Gary Gothier uh, he said that this is why we have to build meaningful relationships through spiritual conversations. And the key is, and what's funny is this goes back to if the tragedy
Okay.
of the if so the questions that we asked earlier, why is Easter important to you? How does your church do the mission? What is your missional model?
Yeah.
If for most churches, the way that churches do the mission is what we've discussed. Their missional model is, invite people when they come. We're going to make sure that it's, the coffee's going to be fresh, and the greeters are all going to have, our fit team are all going to have big smiles and, good handshakes, and their best cologne and perfume on, and, whatever. We used to do services back when our missional model was get them through the door and set the hook and get them to come back next week.
Right.
Get visitors, turn visitors into attenders and turn attenders into members. When that was our missional model, it was it was almost like it was nobody's mission.
Yeah.
It was the
Correct.
church's mission.
And if it's everybody's, then it's nobody's, right?
Right.
That's
If it's
that's the rule.
everybody's, it's nobody's. And so it was like it was nobody individually that owned, like, I've got to be living on mission. It was just, and so we had this expectation. We would go to man, I can't even remember them off the top of my head, but there were these websites that you could go get these videos,
Yeah. Oh,
Easter
yeah.
videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we would play these Easter videos, and man, and I remember one year we started the service off with like this Easter video that was like, oh man, it was pretty, it's funny and whatever, we started off, and then we had a hard hitting one just before the sermon, and I preached based on the video. And and what was so funny was we did 2 videos, and we did like 2 new songs in the worship set. And it was like the church was First Church of the Frozen Chosen. Bro, they just froze.
That is hilarious.
And it was almost like this is how we do church. And it was so weird. Like they just watched. They didn't know the songs, and so they just watched, and they watched the videos and whatever and listened to the sermon. And we did all of that stuff because, hey, this is a big Sunday. It's Easter. We're going to have to do something special and different, and whatever.
You got to compete. Got to compete.
Yeah, because the church down the road, the non-denominational church, is going to have a video, and they're going to do. And so the crazy thing about it was, I went home that particular Easter. I went home thinking, golly, we stink.
Yeah.
Tagging into what Jay says, this is just, and so
quitting.
How amazing, based on what you just said, you were talking about, what if we could just simply say, you know what, you've said it many times, Chris, when you have a missional, disciple making culture, that it doesn't rise and fall on how amazing the church service was.
Right.
Does that mean, we don't want to have powerful worship? Don't want to have anointed preaching? That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is the missional impact doesn't rise and fall. And so what happens is it takes all the pressure off. People could come in. Guests feel like it's normal and natural. They feel good. It feels warm and welcoming. The church isn't sitting there. The church isn't sitting there looking around going,
freaking out.
Yeah. Like, oh, I've never seen them do a video like this before. And whatever. And so I think what you're talking about is it actually allows us to seize the opportunity in a more relational way. If your culture is relational mission.
That's interesting, bro. It's an interesting idea, because actually you're almost detracting away from personal responsibility. Connor Brown mentioned the bystander effect, which is what you referenced. Right. If it's everybody's job, it's nobody's job, right?
That's exactly right.
And, I mentioned we did the Thanksgiving deal, and the last couple of years we did that. Instead of trying to get everybody in the building, okay, this is how the wind changes.
Right.
Instead of just trying to get a bunch of people in the building, here's what we said. We said to our people, who do you know that is struggling at Thanksgiving? Who do you know that right now they're struggling to figure out how they're going to feed their family? They're struggling how they're going to do Thanksgiving meals. Who do you know? What we want you to do is we want you to submit those names. What we're going to do is we're going to prepare a basket based on that. And then in our Sunday service, we're gonna have you, the people, come, and we're gonna pray over these baskets, and then we're gonna put them into your hands, and we're gonna ask you to take them and to personally deliver them after church on Sunday. Because what you're saying is when you have that other attractional model church, it now becomes the responsibility of the institution to do everything. It's the institution's job to make sure everything's right. It's each department, each whatever group is supposed to take care of everything. It's the fit team's job, to make sure that it's friendly and that it's welcoming. But in a missional minded culture, when you come in going, look, your job is to connect with people and identify with people. I went out to lunch with a guest on Sunday who had been invited by another person we were going to lunch with. They'd been invited. And this person said, man, Doug came up to me and he said, I just want you to know, he's like, immediately, bro, check this out. Okay. This is when you're living missionally, you become co-laborers with the Spirit of God. So we've been building relationships, building connections. A guy was driving by the church on his way to yoga class. And he said, I've driven by 100 times, no religious background. And he said, I just felt something saying to me, you need to go in there. And here's what he said, bro, here was his words. You need to check out this community of believers. Check out the community. And he told me, he said, Doug came up, gave me his number. We started talking. We really connected. We're going to get together and whatever. That wasn't because our fit team was in place. And we do that. We do first impressions. We do all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't that. The institutional systems is not what built the connection. It was a personal, an individual person taking responsibility, saying, I'm going to make sure that this guy gets connected, that he feels welcome, that he feels like he's a part of the family. So that's, I think actually we can do more damage to the culture.
That's true.
By what you're saying.
Well, okay. So
on a special Sunday.
So listen to this. So this is interesting because the more we say the mission is best accomplished when the church institutionally is at its best.
Yeah.
When our music is best, when our, right. So what do you do for Easter? You tell your departments, okay, I want you to do something special for Easter.
Yeah.
I want you to have some special thing. Right. So we say we want our, so I've done this in the past, back in the day when that was our missional model. Right. I'd say to our children's ministry, okay, what are you guys doing for Sunday? What are you doing for Easter? I tell our youth department, what are you guys doing for Easter? What's the, what is it that what's going to be your thing? And music department, we would break out, I remember back when the days when, the sign language thing was big and, the stick thing.
Yeah.
Right. And we did. Yeah. Remember that? And we did a deal, man, for Easter. And the drama team said, hey, we got a song and we're going to do the stick deal. And they did this big thing where like this dude, these demons were coming after this dude. And all of a sudden Jesus comes out and covers the dude up and they stab Jesus through and save the guy, and they all get together and put their sticks together and make a big cross, and Jesus is laying dead at the foot of the cross.
Right.
And so, but the point that I'm making is that this idea is, okay, so if your missional model is we do all of those things so that the guests are going to be inclined to come back, or they're going to go, dude, this church is awesome. Whatever.
Yeah.
Here's the scary thing. And I'm going to tie two really crazy things into this.
Okay.
Somebody sent me a video the other day of a guy that was talking about the bystander effect, of a guy that was walking through a mall and there were 3 or 4 people that were assaulting a person.
Right.
And he saw them. Now, the bystander effect basically says somebody's going to do something about this.
Yeah.
Well, how about you? Well, I'm not a cop, or I'm not a security guard, or whatever.
Yeah.
So he walks up to these people and he says to them, stop that. And they're like, well, blankety blank, whatever. And they're making these moves and, and it's like surveillance video. So it's not, you can't really hear them. And they're just, whatever. And they're kind of pushing at him and they're kind of coming in or whatever. And the guy's just standing there. And so this one guy comes in and he gives him a jab and like stuns the guy, and he kind of steps back, and the guy comes at him and he comes up with one of these kicks and goes, kapow. And the guy just falls backwards, just flat out. Okay. What they didn't know was this dude is like a big time up and coming MMA guy.
Mess with the wrong dude.
Which is why I always laugh when people are like, smarting off and whatever. And it's like, you idiot, you don't even know who you're talking to. That sucker could put a pounding on your head.
Right.
But the point is, but here's my point. why did that guy do something? Why did he not suffer the numbing effect of the numbing power of the bystander effect, because he felt like that he had the expertise to handle the situation.
Ooh,
So
so good.
so if you've got people that are sitting in your pews
Man, that's so good.
and they feel like, man, it's got to be the biggest production we do of the year, and everybody's got to be on point, and it's got to be the best songs, and then nobody can be off, and it's got to, and man, if we can nail it, we're going to capture the potential of this Easter, which then turns around and demoralize and basically causes people to say, well, I want to volunteer. So they want to volunteer to make it more excellent, but they don't feel qualified to actually live on mission themselves.
Man, that's so good. What a great connection. I think that's so true because a lot of times the bystander effect is either A, it's somebody else's job or duty, or B, I'm not qualified to put myself at risk, right?
Yep.
To do some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why building the culture is so critical. Why building a discipleship culture is so important, especially in moments like this. Again, the whole point of the conversation today is not to, can I say poo-poo? It's not to poo-poo Easter. It's not to rain on the parade and be like, well, it's not important and blah, blah, blah. No,
Right.
it's what we're trying to say today is, man, get the right culture and you can maximize an opportunity that's built into our culture at large, right? Where people are more open and receptive to spiritual things than they typically are. If we can mobilize, this is the Mobilized Church podcast. If we can mobilize spirit-filled believers that love Jesus and want to do his mission, if we can mobilize them, that army is so much more powerful than as Gary Gother points out, the dowel rod presentation. And but that and all of the trimmings and all of the great things that we could do, none of that can ever be as effective as mobilized believers engaged in the mission and using this as an opportunity to continue that.
How about the other 364 days? That's a thing. How about the people who, man, how about the people that, that you're connected with that might not be inclined. I think that's, Chris, I just think that's the bottom line, just at the sort of the end of this podcast today. I think if we could come to that place, just like you said, we could, we could literally, seriously, we could free Easter up to be important for the reason it's important.
Yes.
And free the church up to be the missional body of Christ, the missional, not just simply, because we didn't even have, we didn't even have the chance to talk about that the mission is bigger than just getting a person to sit on a pew and listen to a sermon, like loving them and getting into their life and helping them walk through the scriptures and find why Jesus is hope specifically in their situation and, and whatever. And man, I just think let's let Easter be important for why it's important. And man, I love the fact, Jay Jones, I can't wait to see the video of the dowel rod Easter karate chop.
Yeah. We need video evidence of that.
Yeah, Pastor Jones is the curse is broken. He's going to break the curse, and the end of his sermon, karate chop a dowel rod. I want to see a flying back flywheel kick or something from him.
I'd like to see him headbutt 6 dowel rods. How many dowel rods can he break with a headbutt? That's what I want to know.
Hey, if you're going to impress people and get them to come back, you're going to have to go big or go home, man.
Remember the back in the day, the group that was like breaking chains, the strong men presentations at churches, which I think to put a bow on this, Reese's question, why do we think we try to force a presentation to put the message in a special package? And I think at the end of the day, It is our view of how we do the mission.
It's it. Your missional model will determine everything.
It's how do you do the mission? If you're church growth oriented, if you're a attractional model, then you'll put everything into a special package to get as many people. But if you look at it from the standpoint of, we believe that the mission is the responsibility of believers that have been transformed by the power of his word and his spirit. It's our responsibility. Now we can take these moments, and again, what you said, it doesn't all rise and fall on one Sunday. Guess what? We're going to come in on Sunday. We're going to do our best to identify disciplable people. And on Monday, we're going to go live on mission where we work. We're going to go into our neighborhoods and try to live on mission. And we're going to try to come back next Sunday and again, be edified and built up in our gathering.
Yep.
And we're not going to get too high, not going to get too low. We're just going to stay right there focused on the mission.
This week we're going to enthusiastically worship a resurrected Jesus.
Yes.
And we're going to love each other.
Yes.
And we're going to preach anointed. And guess what? And then the week after that, we're going to enthusiastically worship a resurrected Jesus.
Yes.
And we're going to, and we're going to get people connected with people, loving people, sharing not just the gospel, but the hope of the gospel, sharing their life, sharing love, sharing some biscuits and gravy. I don't know. I mean,
whatever it is,
yeah.
City barbecue, whatever you do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate everybody being a part of the great conversation today, and we certainly appreciate all the great comments, a lot of interaction and engagement today. Didn't get to all of them.
No.
And I purposely skipped over Connor Brown's comment about the Jesus Biker Club. I didn't even go there, or motorcycle club,
bro.
I didn't want to derail the whole conversation.
I may ask Reese if he could edit that out. Like, I don't even know what in the world my brain was like in a.
So awesome. No, you can't edit that out, man. That makes it great. Makes it awesome.
By the way, Jay, mentioned, how's that working out for you? And talking about, he asked Reese, is it because we hope Easter will make up for the rest of the year? The thing about it is, here's what's so funny. I was just thinking about things that you do that you only do it once a year, or it's the big thing or whatever. I wonder how many people who go to prom together end up getting married. And right. Cause like, you know what I'm saying? People go to prom, they go to homecoming. How many of those people actually end up getting married? You know who gets married? Not people who go to prom together. It's people who sort of walk through life together, and their life begins to get woven together until they eventually realize, you know what? I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. And what if we look at it and say, don't make Easter like prom, and hope that it's so amazing and so, mind blowing that it's like that they want to join the church. Let's make it an opportunity to say, you know what? Let's weave our lives together. Let's teach you how to weave your life together with Jesus. And you may desire to spend the rest of your life with him.
I love it, man. It's so good. So good. Thank you, everybody, for jumping on today and joining us after a week off. We will be back next week, probably. We hope, we think, right?
If we don't get banned, shamed off, or
right. If we have a good enough Easter service, we might come back next Tuesday for another podcast, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
The rapture happens, Jesus will be our guest next week.
That's exactly right. You're on your own. So check us out. Check us out at all of our social media sites, our website, dillinghamgroup.org. And we do have an assessment for pastors. If they're interested, we'd love to connect with you. So thank you, everybody, for being a part today, being a part of the conversation. We look forward to coming back to you next week around 10 o'clock. Until then, go live mobilized. God bless.